The whole history of America is the history of rich white men telling not rich white people that their enemies are black and brown.
Hey beautiful people, how you are doing today? Take care of Destiny here and welcome back to my channel. How you are doing? Hope you guys are doing great. So today's video is a video of a white man who was speaking, like what this man was saying. I need you guys to hear what he has to say. His name is Tim Wise, if I'm not mistaken. And this man was talking about the whole system, Black Lives Matter, how white people will come and say no, all life matter. And this man went on to talk about the history of whiteness, and which I find his explanation very, very interesting. So if you're a white person, sit down and watch this video. I find this conversation, his explanation to the whiteness, like, oh my goodness.
The whole history of America is the history of rich white men telling not rich white people that their enemies are black and brown. It starts in the colonies of what would become the United States. Let's remember, during the colonial period, mid-1600s, there was no such thing as white people. I know some people who are now called white find that shocking, right? Because they think whiteness is real, right? But whiteness was created. Europeans didn't call themselves white. We didn't call ourselves white. We weren't all members of one big happy family. Are you kidding? Have you studied the history of Europe? The history of Europe was about each other. That's what we did in Europe. We just killed each other before we figured out there were other people that just killed each other, right? I mean, that was the history of Europe. The English hated the Irish, right? Northern Italians didn't even think that Southern Italians were Italians. The Germans hated everybody, and everybody hated their right back, right? There was no team called white, no race called white, but all of a sudden, in the middle of the 1600s, there was. Why? Why was it suddenly necessary to create this thing called the white race? Well, because rich people can count, that's why. And so rich folks looked around, the ones that owned all the land, you know, in the colonies, the colonial elite, looked around and they realized something, that they were heavily outnumbered by African enslaved folks, by European indentured servants, who were just one level above a slave, or other Europeans who weren't technically indentured servants, but they were still peasants, didn't have any money, didn't have any land, and they could do the math. They added it up, and they were like, damn, we got to figure out a way to split these folks apart from one another, or they're going to rise up and take our stuff, right? Because after a while, these black folks who were enslaved Africans and these quote-unquote white folks who were poor Europeans are going to figure out they're all getting played by these rich people. Right? So ultimately, the rich figure out they got to come up with some way to get somebody in that group on their team. The easiest thing is to get the poor Europeans, right? Because at least they look like you. They sort of share some of the customs and the culture. So they all of a sudden create this thing called whiteness, and they say, now you're part of the club. Now we're going to let you testify in court, enter into contracts, vote, at least if you're a man, own a little bit of land, at least if you're a man, right? And we're going to get rid of indentured servitude. No more of that, because you're too good for that. And we're going to take the white men, now called white men, and put them on the slave patrol to keep black people in line. Give them a horse and a gun and a badge and make them feel big and powerful, right? They're still poor. They still don't have anything. They didn't pay the slave patrol well, right? Just exploited them, used them as a buffer between the elite and the other poor folks, particularly poor folks of color. And pretty soon, the rebellions that occasionally happened where black and white got together to overthrow the elite, those stopped. Because the divide and conquer had begun to work, right? You could turn people against each other by telling those poor white folks, they got to keep these black people in line. And so that divide and conquer gets initiated in the colonies. Rich white men telling not rich white people that their enemies are black and brown. Cops, it's about understanding the history of law enforcement hasn't been equal, right? And that's why we have to say Black Lives Matter, because the system has said they don't. You know, and if you don't understand that history that I just gave you a real brief thumbnail sketch of, you won't understand Black Lives Matter. You'll respond to it with, well, but all lives, but what about my life? My life matters, doesn't it? Bleep, 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 bleep. What about me? I know your life matters, Snowflake, precious, I know. I know white people's lives matter. I got 2 white children. I understand. God, you don't need to tell me that my children's lives matter. The point is, every cop in America knows their lives matter. And every teacher knows it too, and every boss, every employer, every bank officer who they might go to get a loan, they know their lives matter. It's taken for granted. You don't have to specify that which we take for granted. That's why we don't have to have White History Month, because we got a whole bunch of them. They just go by tricky names like May and June and July and August and shit like that. I just realized I've been forcing the sign language interpreters to like sign like over and over and over again. I'm really sorry about that. I'm not really, but I just think it's weird and funny and unfortunate. Right? You don't have to specify that which is taken for granted. You only have to specify the part that's been left out. Right? And not to mention the fact that white America has a really long history of saying all and not meaning it. Right? Because we did say, well, we didn't, but Thomas Jefferson did, who I gather is one of white people's favorite white people. Thomas Jefferson said, did he not, all men are created equal, endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, among these life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But when he said that, he owned over 250 people at the time, so I think he didn't really mean it when he said all, right? And then when the Pledge of Allegiance was written, the first version was in the 1880s, it was redone a couple times in the 20s, and it was finally redone for the last time, I think in 1954. But every version of it ended with the same line. What is that line? With liberty and justice for all. There's that word again, all. But do you think that the white folks who wrote that in the 1880s actually meant all? Of course not. They weren't thinking about black and brown folks. They didn't mean that. So if we have a history of saying all and not meaning it, we're just going to have to understand when black folks remind us that they're part of that by calling out the fact that Black Lives Matter and insisting that we understand, see? But again, if you understand history, what I just said isn't radical. It's not really hard to get your head around. If you don't know that history, because maybe you've grown up in a community where law enforcement did serve and protect and came and got the cat out the tree, you know, and gave little Billy a ride around to show him how gosh darn exciting it was to be a law enforcement officer, then you won't understand that, right? But the people who deal with it, the people who live with it, the people who've experienced the other side of it, right, have a very different perception. And it's not because they have contempt or hatred for the law itself. It's because they know that the law enforcement system is the problem. And you can be a really good cop. You can be the kind of cop that got into it for all the right reasons, right? And yet if you're part of a bad system, it can change you. Right? It can actually warp you. We've seen that. We've seen good cops run out of policing because they dared to inform on their partner for some brutal, unconstitutional, racist stuff that they were doing in the community. And then they're the ones who get run out. Not the brutal one, not the racist one, not the one who's violating the rights of the citizens, but the one who informs on the one that's doing that. They're the ones who end up losing their job. They're the ones who get run out. They're the ones who get their lives threatened from their brothers and sisters in blue. That's a culture. It's not about good and bad people, see?
Please go down in the comment section and share your thoughts. Love to know what you think about this video down in the comment section. But please, please, please keep it respectful. You don't have to disrespect anybody for you to air your opinion. So let's be respectful down in the comment section, okay? We're allowed to disagree, but we'll keep it respectful here. If you're new here, we're very respectful. We don't throw names. We don't disrespect anybody, okay? So feel free and share your opinion down in the comment section. I find this whole conversation very, very interesting, and to think that it's like a tiny percentage of people that has groomed us, that has pitched people, that make a lot, because whether you like it or not, we still have really poor people in the white community, and these people feel because they are white they are superior, when this is all just a mental thing to just keep people, which I find fascinating, about how, like, yes, we're fighting each other, we're calling each other names, you're feeling superior to a black person. Does that put money in your account? Does that improve the quality of your life? Does that heal you as a human being inside? Because whether you like it or not, the 1% of people that are powerful, that have orchestrated this system, are the one benefiting from this. So why can't we as people start unlearning some of these things that has run so deep in our blood? Why can't we start unlearning it? Why? Because it does not benefit us. Now we're all pitching with each other. You see somebody that is black, it makes you feel like I personally, like, I know that a white person cannot disrespect me because I'm black, if like to my face, like, because I'm just going to, like, because I'm ready, because I know a lot of history now, I know a lot of backstory now, that I personally, I will not allow a white person to disrespect me because of my skin color. And I know there are some white people out there that also feel like they are better than me, they are better than black people because they are white. Not because they have a special skill, not because they are more intelligent, not because, no, it's just an ideology that was sold to you. Just like the video I posted of the white man talking about how can black people exist without white people. Not even realizing that a lot of the things you say today, a lot of the things, like black people would have strived. Africa would have strived. But no, they've put that divide, they've made white people to feel like, oh, they are. And you white people that feel that way, you have to start unlearning some of those things. Okay, I feel like it's more on the white counterpart side. With black people, I know black people, most black people are already like, if you don't treat me some type of way because of my skin color, I'm cool with you. I know black people are like that. So white people, you guys need to unlearn some of these things, because that's why you can get people in 2023 to talk about, oh, what will black people do with that? What will black people do without white people? Oh, all life matters. Still don't understand the magnitude of what it means to be black and what it means to be colored. Like being black, white, still don't know the difference. And then they don't know the impact this make in our lives. Like, I really do find this conversation interesting. Anyway, guys, please go down in the comment section and share your thoughts. Love to know what you think about this video. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Please smash the like button because that helps my video. So smash the like button. Share this video with somebody that you want to be part of the conversation, because that's what we do, have conversations. So go down in the comment section and let us know what you think, but please keep it respectful. With that all said, guys, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Deuces.